Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays.
Rebel soul child got a fist ball, I'm a respawn of ancestors, and I'm blessed, They are not him, tell him fess up, I get check stub, hella carefree, nothing scares me, hella reckless, yeah, I got next up, right, no we not the same, cause see when I look in your iris, you likely to talk but not ready to ride, you do better keeping it quiet, my pen is ignited, my soul is enlightened, I like who I am but I'm biased, the palette is right and my drip is a fountain, I'm not like these regular guys, all of that talk is misguided, she like the way I make the tape print, but the way I make the words play is grim, I'm the reaper reaching for the kill switch, the label cut the check like the blazement, something sparking where his brain is, the beat is somewhere where they prayers in, Geronimo the way I make the bass jump when no parachute is tasted.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Throwing Hands. Got my boy Josh with me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Can't complain. How was your day?
It was long. I ended up waking up a little too early, and then I couldn't go back to sleep, and then it was just a long day at work, and then, household stuff. You know how it is.
Yeah, it goes like that sometimes,
Mm.
Did you happen to catch Ryan Garcia this past weekend?
Yes, and let me tell you something. I was not only scared because of how he was doing the Philly shell and how many times he get caught, but I'm happy he won.
I wasn't scared. Ryan's overly confident, and for good reasons. He's really skillful. And I knew he was gonna win when at the press conference he called out Oscar again.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys always are betting. You're setting me up with opponents, and then betting against me to lose against these guys you're setting me up with. So I can't wait till that marriage is done.
Yeah, although I won't lie, I know Ryan, he's super confident, but he didn't look all that confident. He seemed pretty nervous to get touched. That's why I was kind of scared, because it was whenever it get into intense situations, the same way he dropped his guard against Tank and get caught, he was making that same mistake, and he seemed pretty nervous.
Yeah, in a sense, you're right. Nowhere. In a sense, you're right, but not everybody punches like Tank. So I know that I knew he wasn't worried too much about the power. I'm sure they talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure they talked about it a lot. So that's why he was getting tagged like that. He was overly playing defense.
Yeah,
The Philly thing was kind of weird, but that's the first time we've seen it from him. So it takes a lot to really get good at that particular defensive, mechanism, or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
So that was his first time doing it. So we'll see, man.
Yeah.
You didn't
That's
like
why I
it?
gave him a little slack on it.
You didn't like it?
The Philly shell?
Mm-hmm.
No, I liked it, although I was critiquing in a sense that he was almost turning his back completely to Duarte a lot of times. And that was his first time ever really using the Philly shell in an actual fight. So that's why I'm understandable at the same time.
Yeah, it was definitely showing that he's new to that.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was funny when he was saying he talked after the fight about how his coach was giving him shit for doing it. He was like, no, I'm just gonna do it anyways.
Right. It's crazy to hear them say that they're gonna decide. I mean, if he had lost that fight, they would decide if he was gonna fight again or if his career was over. Like, Ryan's still hella young.
And that's his first loss too. Like, God forbid you lose something. The whole point of the fighting is that no matter how many times you get knocked down, you keep getting up.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about it many times before, how, in boxing, they have a little bit more leeway. They have a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more of a comeback story opportunity because they can lose a couple of times.
Yeah.
So for them to be, and his age, he isn't even taking no damage yet. I mean, what are they? The
Mhm.
tank him with a tank, you know, like
Exactly.
you know. So, but glad he picked up the victory. I like Ryan.
Yeah, same. He did us proud.
Yeah, but you know, we are in December, December 5th. So we're officially 11 days out from PFA 5.
That's true. That's true. I'm very excited about that. And we have on a special guest tonight that has fought for PFA as well. So I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Yeah, Matt, let me tell you something. This guy is a butcher on the mats. Call him the Grappler as you faceplant. He'll pick you up for a body slam, rattle your brain, turn you insane like Stan. He'll trick you with a feint, then catch you with a double leg, choke you out and make you faint, add an L to your record as he sets you straight. You better watch your back because your neck he'll snap and your spine he cracks. Now your career is sacked and you just can't come back from that. Then he just goes on, murking fools like he's Genghis Khan, breaking records like he's the chosen one until it's all the belts he's won. Ladies and gentlemen, he has all the power as he's the one and only Jared Whittler. What's going on, my guy?
What's going on? I appreciate the little rap you made her. That was pretty interesting. Wasn't expecting all that. That was
We knew
pretty
I got
cool.
we got to treat you right.
How are you doing though?
Doing good about yourself, man.
I'm doing all right. Hopefully the audio sounds good. Does it?
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Sounds
Awesome.
good, man. Yeah. So you're at the gym right now, huh?
Yes, sir. Out in this little back room over here. But I mean, there were still classes going on until just a minute ago. There's even still some people punching the bags and all that. I just got done training. And then I set up the computer in the other room.
Nice.
How often do you train throughout the week?
I mean, every day. What the training schedule is normally looking like is on pretty much, because here's the thing. The main thing that I represent is protege, right? But I get training in at a lot of different places, and I feel like this is going to allow me to level up. I am answering this in a really strange way, but like I just recently got permission to start training with Dragon Snake. I've got some different coaches that are teaching me judo. There's obviously the ASU MMA club stuff that I'm doing, which has allowed me to, get connected with a whole bunch of really interesting coaches all throughout the Valley that help me out. So I get training in from a really eclectic variety of people where I might learn judo with this one guy and I box with this guy. And then I do Muay Thai with this guy. And I kind of get to draw from a pretty big grab bag of martial arts and then bring it back home to my coaches to kind of start feeling what should work for my style.
Nice. So you give yourself the ability to diversify your discipline instead of being grounded to at least just one category. You could at least branch out and hone your skills in a variety of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good way of, especially coming into it too, because you get so many different varieties of coaching styles, so many different varieties of ways to look at things, from different views from guys that have been doing it forever and forever and forever as well.
Right.
How does the wrestling club help you out as well? Because you're the president, correct?
Right. So there's the MMA club at ASU. I'm the person I am the president of that. The way I actually found out about it is when I first got to ASU, there was a party there and the dude saw my ears and he was all like, "Do you train?" And then he talked about the club there. And then I went there and a lot of the people were of all different, skill levels, but people eventually just started kind of asking me questions and stuff like that. So eventually I was just all like, how do I take it over? Like I'm already putting in a lot of work. And I did all the work in order to actually facilitate that. And then I became the president of it. And that's a lot of responsibilities that I'm not going to lie. As far as my organizational skills and stuff like that, I didn't originally need to be doing that, but it's just somebody needed to. But I feel like I've kind of grown into the position and done kind of my own unique chaotic flair of it. That has taken it in some unique directions. Like right now, I have this partnership with my gym protege where I'm trying to bring as many people from ASU over as possible, and then give them some cool opportunities where they could be volunteering at amateur fights and stuff like that. They could be working to be on recording groups to actually cover sports and stuff like that. I could connect people with the right people to, if they wanted to become a referee or something like that. I mean, I know people, we're in the infancy for some of these things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I have a whole bunch of visions where it's like, I want to be able to make it so this is a club where we're actually engaged in the sport of mixed martial arts. Like, I want people to be, I want people to know that that's out there. You know what I mean? And I feel
So
like
it's not just
direction.
it's not just for like fighters. It's to be anybody that anything that's incorporated, like you said, referee. You want to cover it, or you want to learn more about it in a sense as well, from the inside out.
100%. Because I feel like the way it was done previously is these people would come in there, show some drills and stuff like that for an hour, and then leave. Now I'm trying to get it where we're doing watch parties and stuff like that. We have an actual gym that will just be able to go show like a higher level of training than what's possible from some people that aren't fighters showing some moves. There's just all the connections that I've gained. I mean, like I am relatively close with, multiple of these promoters around here in Arizona, to where, like, if these people wanted to get some volunteer work where they could go and see the fights for free and be behind scenes and stuff like that, like they could. And I really want to continue pushing that, because I think that there's a whole bunch of potential, first off, to really develop, in the sense that if we got a whole bunch of volunteers, we could put on some really cool shows that would grow the sport of amateur mixed martial arts.
Right.
And Muay Thai, boxing, all of it. I mean, like, it's mixed martial arts, but I am not interested specifically in the sport of mixed martial arts. I'm interested in the act of mixing your martial arts. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my goals are as far as that goes. Hopefully that gives some clarity.
Okay. Yeah. And tell me, because you don't really see a lot of schools or anything even have any type of MMA or combat sports club to begin with. How is it at ASU being the president of the club, and kind of how it's treated throughout the university, and like how you approach it?
Right. I'm not going to lie. I feel at times sort of disrespected in a way, because previously, and it was no fault of the people in charge of it prior, but there was an incident where there was an injury that happened outside of MMA club hours, that because of that, they were kicked off of campus for a little bit. And that was the time where I actually really stepped up, and I put in a lot of work in order to get it where the club was no longer suspended and they were allowed to practice again.
Okay.
But there is sort of like a lot of, there's this kind of air of tension around the whole situation, because I knew that they kind of saw it a certain way and viewed it as a whole bunch of people that kind of didn't know what they were doing, but they kind of didn't want to fight it because there was a lot of interest in it. And I feel like I'm in a kind of cool position, because I can slowly feel that they're starting to respect me more and more, because if they say that it's somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, you go out there and you take a fight, then that changes something. You go out there and you take 4 fights now. One of them I lost, but it was against the number 1 ranked dude in the Southwest.
Right.
I feel like that legitimizes it to a point where it's just all like, this dude is legitimately one of the best amateurs in the region. And he has people that are above him actually helping out and all that with the club. Like, just the other day, I had my manager, who is a professional boxer, go out there, and he was teaching some boxing drills at the club. I've already had it where I've had, Paris Stanford from Fight Ready do a seminar. I've had some other Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. I've had old school catch wrestlers come in. I've had all sorts of really cool stuff that kind of didn't get seen with the respect that it got, because of kind of this perception that it's just like, oh, these are just some kids that are going to come in there and spar and then leave, and we'll let them have it. But they weren't really supporting it. But it's just like, I feel like it's slowly getting to a point where it's being supported more, but there's still a lot of tension there that I really want to work through. And I want them to understand this, because, like, last semester, I've been talking for a minute now, but I mean, last semester, I would have had it to a point where there were multiple internships that we actually were trying to have set up. Like I was working with Flash Media Sports to be able to get it set up where some film students could go out there and actually be covering some actual broadcasting material for sports. But it's just like, because ASU isn't trying to work with me as far as like actually hearing what my ideas are and stuff like that, put funding towards stuff, they weren't able to do that. And it's like, I think that would be really cool to be supporting local businesses and stuff like that while creating internships for students to get college credit for. But I didn't get any support in that. So I was pretty much the only person trying to go out there and help on that. I mean, with Rage in the Cage a couple chapters ago, that feels like that I was doing that. But I was actually working every one of the shows, even one of the ones that I wasn't, fighting on. And the thought process behind that was I was supposed to be one of the interns, and we were going to work towards actually getting me college credit for that internship type of thing. I was going out there promoting it. We had a discount for ASU students and stuff like that. But ASU doesn't always want to work with it. So I want to continue going out there using the name because I'm allowed to. But I'm going to go out there and work harder because they're not going to make that an easy trip for me, and I'll earn the respect that they're not kind of giving me.
Yeah, so you're almost like in this you're in the stage where you're overcoming the stigma that's been attached to it in the school, but that's also at the same time you get a sense of gratification because as you lay the roots down and break that stigma, you get to then lay the foundation and then set up the rest of your guys for success and all the new people that come and join it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm pretty optimistic that some cool things are going to happen coming up, because I mean, there's the Taekwondo club there that gets approved to do traveling. They have actual instructors coming in and teaching virtually all of their classes. They get a lot of funding and stuff like that, and they treat them really nicely. And I feel like when the MMA club stuff is at its peak, there's a lot more participation with the MMA club, even though I feel like there's just a lot of structure with the Taekwondo club that I don't personally have the ability to. We're not a rivalry, but it's just like in the sense that they're both martial arts related. They do have a lot better structure and stuff like that. And that's sort of the reason why they do get that support. I feel like once I get to that point, there will be some support that ASU wants to give. At the same time, though, just because MMA is such a scary sport, I feel like they are kind of going to be hesitant on that, which is why I need to make it clear that it's like, not everybody needs to go out there and be a fighter. Like, it would be a really cool development to see, some ASU students as the ring girls and some others as the commentators and some others as going
Cameraman.
through. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just being involved in absolutely every aspect of it. And if we have really a crew of like 15 people going out there representing ASU and helping out on the show, and then telling all their friends about it, you could really bring like 200 students there, which is a lot of tickets that would be making a better show, supporting the local economy and giving people real experience. I mean, some of these internships, they're going out there and selling solar panels and stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of real world experience that could be gained if I got the support that I'm sort of trying to get there.
No, you're 100% correct, man. And so I don't want to take it on a tangent, but I'm going to take it on a slight one because you're 100% correct. And that kind of falls into a lot of areas in the athletic department that they don't promote within. When I say within, they don't promote within the state a lot. So, it's hard for you to get stuff that's interstate. So how long has the Taekwondo one been around?
Longer than I've gone to ASU. I used to get workouts in with them because when I actually first, I'm going on a tangent a little bit. Longer than I've been around, I used to train with them for a little bit, but I never was actually in their club, I'd say.
Well, that's going to be one thing, they got that longevity. And
right. I mean, the MMA club, though, has been around longer than me as well. I mean, there was a time where they were getting training at Arizona Combat Sports for some sort of exchange where the MMA club members were staying behind and mopping mats and stuff like that. I'm getting it towards a similar setup over at Protege right now, which I feel like will offer a lot of legitimacy and stuff like that. But it's that there is a little bit of legacy on the MMA club as well, where I know it's at least been around for several years longer than I have.
Okay.
Well, I'm loving the direction that you're spitting. Everything takes a little bit of kicking at the door, the first couple times, but once you crack it, I mean, everything that you're spitting is gonna definitely take flight, because it's undeniable. I mean, everything that you just put in full circle. You could take people from the business side. Maybe they're in the business. They're taking business classes, but they like MMA, so they come and train, and then you get them internship at the events, learning, but still doing MMA stuff. Like, there's a
Right.
lot of stuff you could do with that. I love it.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I was trying to reach out in order to get on these podcasts like that, is because you guys are local, you know what I mean? And I feel like you guys are probably connected to a lot of these people who might see it and be these local businesses that might hear that I'm trying to support a local growing economy right after COVID and all this, where there's probably a whole bunch of businesses that are trying to go out there and support each other and stuff like that. And I'm trying to be a part of that, So if there were any businesses that like to support this podcast or anything like that, that hear that this is what I'm trying to work on, if you had any resources to be able to help develop the club stuff, I mean, I think it sounds really good, just in the sense that it's like it is an actual student organization on campus, and we have bodies that would be willing to help, at varying degrees. I mean, at bare minimum, you have body that's willing to help. I will do it. But yeah.
I give major respect to that too, because especially with, like you say, supporting the local economy and local businesses is very important, especially after COVID. So I give you major respect for that.
Yeah, and it's just like when I first ended up meeting Todd, who's currently the promoter for PFA, it was while he was still doing the Rage in the Cage stuff. And I talked with him on the phone. I was saying like, hey, I just recently became the president of the MMA club. I am trying to go out here and just do something cool with that. What could I do with that? And he was saying that he wants to turn, at the time, Rage in the Cage into, probably could never catch up to like the UFC or something like that, but over the course of time, he'd like to see it be the next best thing. And I said that it's just like, that is a tall order, but like I would like to support in whichever way that I can. So I do really want to go out there and ride with that. I'd like to add a long lasting legacy for the whole MMA club thing, where it's like, if you really had like some super gym or something like that, where it was closely involved with the MMA club, and that MMA club were helping directly a local regional organization, you actually really could boost that. Like, imagine if there is no affiliation, let me clarify that before somebody goes out there and gets upset, but like if the lab or something like that, just to say that, created a really big partnership with the MMA club, there could be some really cool opportunities to go out there and promote these local events or something like that. And that's what I'm trying to elevate Protege to being on the level of, because if we found like 2 UFC fighters to become coaches here or something like that, then you could bring a whole bunch of bodies in there. Then that could be a really good argument to bring a whole bunch of students from the club to really want to do the Protege stuff. These are all things that we're actively working on, by the way. I'm not sure if it's at my liberties to be able to disclose this right now, but there are some fruits to this that you're going to see in the next couple months that I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love to hear that.
So, where did all this come from, Jared? Like, how far back did it start? I mean, they call you the Grappler, so I know you had to be wrestling for a while. So, when did all this start?
So honestly, I think every guy is in Delulu land and thinks they're the best fighter on the planet. That was me. And then I found out one day that I wasn't, and I was just all like, I can be. So I'm going to continue to train until I am. And there's no amount of loss. I wouldn't care if I lost 50 million times. By the time I'm done with it, I'm going to be the greatest ever. And that's sort of just the thought process that I have. I'm not deluded as far as what my actual talent is. I know that there's people better than me right now There always have been people better than me. But you just got to keep working it. All those people that have an argument of being the best, none of them came out of the womb the best. They just really believed in themselves. And I think that my mindset, I have some interesting philosophies as far as training, as far as just things that I don't think other people are doing, to where if you want to be the best, you got to do something different. And I know I'm doing something different. So if I get a little lucky, I'll see the fruits of that one day. You know, I know you asked how it kind of started. I really don't know if it did start. You know, I think that's just kind of ingrained in me that I like fighting, and I'm not going to settle for. There's some of these people that were all like, oh, I'm really good at fighting, but they don't even train. They just like to pretend that they know how to fight. Like, I really want to create a legacy to myself. I don't care if anyone even agrees. I want to personally believe I'm the best fighter on the planet one day.
Yeah. And like you said, that's not even a diluted thought. That's just faith in yourself and what you're capable of and your potential. And especially too in this sport, it's all about legacies. So it's like for you to be able to create something to where it has a generational long lasting impact, whether it's Muhammad Ali or the Cinderella Man or all these
I
other
got
great
Muhammad
fighters.
Ali right here. The him versus Sonny Liston.
Hey, nice.
That's hung up in the gym, but that is my picture there. Nice. I like to use that as like a motivator, actually. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's just like I want to be on like some Muhammad Ali type of stuff where people that have never seen one of my fights are still saying my name. Not because I really care about the fame that comes with that, but it's just like that is, in my opinion, the highest accomplishment that you could have in combat sports, to be Muhammad Ali. That is the highest accomplishment. I want to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail in the coffin when you said people that have never watched my fights are still screaming my name. Because, you know, kids, it's like kids come out the womb like, yeah, I want to be Muhammad Ali one day. I'm like, damn, 5 years old. What did you see? You know, but you're right. Like, his name just ring and echoes because of what he's done, and that's another thing you'll see a lot too is pictures, Frazier, Liston. There's many of them, but you'll see as motivation. So that was kind of leading into my question for you is kind of like what has motivated you and who has motivated you to kind of be in the position that you're in. So besides outside of Muhammad Ali, is there anybody else that you kind of look at and gather motivation from?
Yeah, I mean, there's really a whole bunch that are kind of from all different types of combat sports. What's his name? Andy Hoog is one guy, because he comes from like Kyokushin karate, and he was one of the best kickboxers on the planet for a hot minute. And the thing that I really respect about that is it's just like he does things differently, and I like to think I do things differently. I'm rolling with the Grappler right now, but that's sort of a reference to this anime called Baki the Grappler, where the guy he doesn't even grapple. He's doing spinning kicks and stuff like that, and he's calling himself the Grappler. Now, I personally think I'm pretty good at grappling, but I want to be doing it all. You know, I started with traditional martial arts way back when. Haven't had the opportunity to show you guys some of that just yet. But like when I'm in the gym, sometimes I'm going out there doing these spinning kicks and stuff like that. I'm going out there. I really want to go out there and master so many different ranges of combat where I could be kicking people from across the cage, even though I'm 5'9". I could be doing judo throws and stuff like that. I could be submitting people with some weird standing arm lock and stuff like that. And I honestly don't think it's impossible, because there's other amateurs that'll go out there and train with and catch them with some stuff. And I know, give it a few years, I'll be a pro, they'll be a pro. Maybe I'll be able to catch them with the same stuff that I'm hitting in training. You know what I mean? So I really do believe that as my fighting style develops years into the future, like I just know that I'm going to be doing some stuff and getting some highlights that just like other people don't fight that way. It's very unique. Like I'm trying to be like Baki the Grappler, just taking from all different things.
You know what that makes me think of is this one saying I recently learned where it's like, talent is your ability to hit the target as spot on as possible, but genius is able to find the target that nobody's looking for. And so based off what you're saying, you're looking for this new style, this new development where you don't see anybody else being able to achieve or come close to it. So I got to pay homage to that, because that's what you make me think of.
Right. And let me demonstrate that for a second so that you guys could kind of see where my headspace is at. Next year, I'm going to be doing this Sonda National Championship. All right.
Hey.
Sonda is a style of Chinese kickboxing that includes takedowns. One of the teachers at ASU, I've already taken his class, teaches Sonda. He's one of the only like official instructors in this portion of the country. And I already took his class. I'm going to be trying to train under him, see if I could go out there and compete. And it's a national team trials thing. If I were successful, I could be on the national team, and they have like professional fighters in like world championship level professional fighters, not in the UFC, but in other organizations that are on that team. Some of those guys are really, really good. To be on that team, like there would be a lot of knowledge transfer, I think. And I feel like it's directly applicable because it's not kickboxing where, yes, you're learning how to strike somebody who wants to strike you, but the moment they grab you, they separate you. These are people that will be trying to tackle you when you're leg kicking them. Maybe if I had a little bit more Sonda, then Sebastian wouldn't have been able to snatch my leg like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These are things that are all preparing me for the main shebang, MMA. But still allowing me to work on the individual skills. And that's kind of where my headspace is at. Like, learn striking, get better at striking, but in a setting where it's not gonna make you worse at grappling. If anything, it feeds directly into it, taking down people trying to punch you, punching people trying to take you down.
Exactly.
If you can compare or you can point out someone that's kind of similar to the style you're looking for or what you're headed for, who would you say?
Man, that's so interesting. I really don't think there is one. I think you'll see the first one day. I really always respect these fighters where you end up seeing another level to their game after they fail at their kind of main squeeze, you know? So like, for instance, I guess with Brian Ortega, even though it's a sort of a weird call out just because he's not he hasn't won his past like couple fights, but it's just like with that Korean zombie fight, I mean, I feel like he was just kind of regarded as like the guy with good submissions, but he doesn't really have takedowns. And all of a sudden he's going out there doing spinning elbows and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And him versus Volkanovski, even though he lost that kind of brutally, I'm not going to lie, like he was going out there submission, catch the leg kick, overhand. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be dangerous. Or I guess Charles Oliveira might honestly be a better example. Like, I feel like Charles Oliveira is dangerous, where he might be losing the fight, but at any point you could finish it. I want to have a skill like that where there's a sense of danger. And I also want to be able to be defensively sound. I realistically, even though I guess it sounds strange because Charles Oliveira is regarded as one of the best fighters in the world, but I don't want to be like Charles Oliveira because he takes a lot of damage. I want that danger, but I really want to be like, I want to be something special is really what I'm aiming for. Everybody wants to, but it's like, I just really want to speak that into existence. I want to have like an air of like untouchableness about me one day.
Okay. So almost kind of like a bit of like Wonder Boy, how he's very adamant on being able to touch but not get touched. So he's always very defensively sound with what he tries to do.
There's so many fighters that I kind of look at and esteem in certain ways. When I get my kickboxing sparring rounds in, it's actually pretty interesting because I do love doing a lot of these traditional martial arts kicks and stuff like that. I think I have some pretty good kicks off of my lead leg that it's honestly hard for me to implement in MMA because my stance is different from my kickboxing stance, but that's why I want to do Sonda, so that I learn how to apply that, learn these kicks and stuff like that are high scoring moves in Sonda when there's a threat of takedown or when there's a possibility for me to kick someone down. That I think is going to allow me to bring it full circle and start applying my kickboxing into my MMA game.
It's almost like you're taking stuff to learn the counters ahead of time before you reach the issue. I like that.
Because it's like, I feel like all of these MMA fighters that you see all come from some sort of a base martial art. And I feel like the reason that that's good is because it's like, if you take somebody who came from a wrestling background, they the scoring is encouraging you to get good at something, right?
Mhm.
The 2 points for a takedown, there's writing time if you do it in college and stuff like that. And that are all things that would directly translate to you being a good fighter, right? I feel like just going out there and learning the skills, because sparring is never able to directly reflect a fight, it's necessary, but there's only so much that it'll do. I feel like training these other sports is necessary because you could kind of do these mental thought experiments and see how it translates. You could see how being a collegiate wrestler that could get a lot of riding time would translate to taking somebody down and holding them down while they're trying to get back up. In sparring, it's just never like a fight. I really want to go out there and be training these rule sets on the side that will encourage me to develop skills that I might use in a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for yourself too, with all of this, and then one thing I especially noticed about you is you have a far vision in a sense. You have long-term aspirations that supersedes your own lifespan, something that's going to have a lasting impact. What kind of ambitions and what kind of impact do you want to have on the sport as you become older, as you develop more, and you start to step up throughout competition, promotions, and all that?
Right. I mean, I really just want to kind of change the culture of martial arts as a whole. I feel like Joe Rogan currently is somebody who has kind of shaped the mixed martial arts scene at present. And it's gotten to a point where people are extremely dismissive of traditional martial arts, despite the fact that the vast majority of the people in martial arts today, in mixed martial arts today, in some capacity can trace their lineage back to a traditional martial art. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all comes from judo. And even if people seem respectful of judo comes from a traditional martial art before then, which people would say is BS or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of practices in traditional martial arts that, because they get so rooted in tradition, they end up losing a little bit of efficacy. But there are instructors that have a modern mindset within all of these. And you could find these instructors and learn from them. And I feel like once it gets to the point where it's like, yes, the vast majority of people that might be training some obscure traditional martial art might just be traditional, but not all of them, you know what I mean? And I feel like once you kind of open everybody's mind that you could learn from a lot of people, you could really be on some Bruce Lee stuff, where Bruce Lee was going out there in an era where everybody was all like, no, this is the best martial art. No, this is the best martial art. And then Bruce Lee's just all like, why can't we all have a lot of martial arts that are pretty good and then just make whatever's the best for your own style? I want to have a legacy like Bruce Lee. Like, that's kind of like the thought process that I want to have. I want to be a combination of Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali.
Okay. That's what's up.
That style, when we were describing it, it was stuck, but I finally when you were going through stuff, it kind of gave me a Mighty Mouse type of feeling. Like back when he was on his ish, when he first came in, he was a killer, and he could do it from so many different facets as well.
Yeah. That would have been a good person for me to shout out there. I mean, I really like Demetrius Johnson. And I mean, he's still going out there and doing it. And I really respect it because, like, I am the type of person where I will never just be doing one sport. I would love to be doing these other sports and stuff like that too. And I think it's cool how he's still involved in training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he just did IBJJF Worlds for brown belt. And I think he just got promoted after that or something like that too. And I think that it's cool how he did like that weird mixed rules fight with Rod Tang, and everybody's saying like, why should that matter? Because it's not MMA and it's not Muay Thai. And it's like, well, it's martial arts. Like, I just want to see what happens. Like, I kind of feel like I was from the wrong generation. Like, I would really love to be in Pride or something like that, where you'd see these guys do K1 and then they'll fight a sumo wrestler that's 600 pounds.
The next freaking fight.
I want the freak shows because it's just like real combat is not a real combat doesn't look like MMA. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like real combat is some balance between all these weird sports that you could possibly come up with. You know, who's the best overall?
Yeah. And then especially too when Like not to cut you off, James, but I was just gonna say, especially too, like with Rod Tang and Demetrius Johnson, the biggest part of martial arts is your ability to adapt to any environment and to any circumstance. And so long as you're trapped in a specific rule set, you'll really never see the true authentic piece of what martial arts is and can be.
Right, 100%. And just to kind of further visualize, like, kind of like what I'm talking about, like, consider that, like, some of these martial arts might have been developed for war, and they might geographically be in like some marsh that's like knee high in water. Someone who knows how to like do a takedown and like kind of hold you down could drown you. And that same person could get submitted by like a blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu that could put them in a triangle choke or something like that. But it's just like there's so many different contexts that different strategies would be applicable. And I think it's hard to say that Brazilian jiu-jitsu is the best because all these guys are winning MMA fights when like a wrestler might drown them if they're in Louisiana on a marsh because they know what
circumstances.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like people look at mixed martial arts and say it's the sport where you could do everything, but it's like there's so many different contexts. Like if you took John Jones, for instance, and you put him in a street fight against some Olympic judo gold medalist and he's wearing a jacket, he's getting his shirt ripped, and he's getting slammed on his head and he's dying. Any other circumstance, I'm not going to lie, John Jones might have any other human on the planet. But in that contrived setting, he might have it. Or like imagine Fedor versus John Jones, but John Jones is wearing a jacket. Fedor did judo. So he might have an advantage there. These are weird thought experiments that aren't like really beneficial to anything. But it's like that's where my mind is at because I want to understand real combat. Because like when the nukes get dropping and we're in some weird Mad Max world, nobody cares who the UFC champion is anymore. I want to be dangerous.
Right. No, that makes total sense. So how do you feel about one championship?
I think it's cool because it's like they're pitting these grapplers and that have grappling matches against other grapplers against MMA fighters now. And they're doing these striking only matches on the cards. I think that honestly, a plug for Todd Whitmore over here. I think it's cool how he's going out there and doing like hands only shows on the kickboxing events and stuff like that. And I feel like with the support of the Athletics Commission, like you could really go out there eventually and get to a point where we could be doing like 4-ounce Muay Thai on the same fight cards as like an MMA fight or something like that. And once you start seeing some spectacles like that, you could actually start getting some real traction. I really support what One Championship is doing. And I think that is more in line with kind of where my headspace is because it's like I care about all martial arts. I really am not an MMA fan. I'm a fighting fan, and MMA just so happens to be the most popular platform of that at the time.
Yeah.
No, this is I like the perspective that you've put it in because a lot of people, especially in our day and age, I don't know how many times I hear, they mix up UFC as a form of martial arts. You know what I mean? Like, he does UFC. No, he doesn't do UFC.
I've had people now say like, "Oh, he's a UFC fighter," and then I have people try to quiz me and be like, "Oh, you're in the UFC?" And they'll like start asking me questions and stuff like that, and it gets my heart racing because it's just like, now I'm gonna look like a liar. I'm not in the UFC. I never claimed I was in the UFC. I did not tell this person that.
I do MMA.
This is amateur MMA.
But it's just crazy, like you said, man. Just to break it down like that, there's so many different forms. There's so many different art forms in fighting, and like you said, a lot of these going way back was probably used for combat. And that was a good analogy. I didn't think about it like that. Like get judo freaking thrown and held down, and you're 4 feet underwater, 3 feet underwater.
Right. And I'm thinking like look of like Russia. If you're like half the year, you might not be able to walk around without a thick jacket. If we're in LA where it's 70 degrees at worst, you're not going to be able to grab someone's shirt where it's just going to rip if you go to throw them, right? But you might if somebody's wearing some thick jacket in Siberia. It's just like context. I want to be dangerous. I want to be able to throw somebody by grabbing them by their belt. I want to be able to fight if for whatever reason somebody came in while I'm naked or something. I don't know. Like I want to do the no gi, I want to do the gi, I want to know how to box, I want to know how to wrestle, I want to know how to slam somebody because I love slams. It's kind of, not gonna lie, on the cages, it's a little bit of a waste of energy because it doesn't hurt that much unless you like slam somebody on their head.
Yeah.
But it's a useful skill that I'm going to continue to practice because first off, it makes awesome highlights. And
Yes,
secondly, if I were in a street fight, like who's going to pick a fight with a dude that's picking people up over their head and slamming them? On concrete, that's the fight.
Exactly. And like you said, in that those scenarios too, like, you know, if there's a guy from LA that was over in Serbia or Syria and started a fight and it's winter, they're already acclimated to the conditions of their environment to where they're not going to be all chattering up. They're not going to be so cold that they can't even move their hands. Their style of fighting is already going to be acclimated to outpace the person from LA.
You say that, but -15 is -15 no matter where you're from or where you're at. So
Why do you think the Russians drink so much?
yeah, that -15 ain't no joke.
No, but I think it's the interesting thing is like you could kind of really see the way that changes things just with little tiny changes to the rules. Like people will go out there and say like this fighter is clearly a better fighter than this person. But if you look at Demetrius Johnson, right? He just got knocked out due to, I say just, but it was probably like a year ago now, but due to a knee as a grounded opponent.
Yes.
That couldn't happen in the UFC. Like it would not happen. He would have won that fight. He was winning that fight prior to that. But that is a legitimate real loss that comes just because of a tiny rule change. And there really might be other things like that where it's like with a tiny rule change, John Jones of all people would have lost to Dominic Reyes with a tiny rule change or something like that. And it's just
you make a big point too, because you see that a lot with fighters, especially when fighters come from different promotions and they hop over to the UFC. You see a lot of that transition, like, okay, I got to remember keep my hand on the ground. They can't knee me,
right.
And you see the younger fighters in the UFC, they don't keep the hand on the ground. They're doing things because they're used to, like you said, they're used to taking it anyway.
Right.
And that's something too. So my bad. Go ahead.
Sorry, my mind's just always all over the place. And that's kind of like what I was talking about with like the chaotic flair that I do with the MMA club stuff. Like this is how I am. I'll change the subject a million times. But it's like another thing, because we were talking about like one championship and stuff like that. Ben Askren going over to the UFC, I feel like a lot of people disrespected him so fast when he starts losing, but people start to think, but you really have to consider like that dude was retired with in need of a hip replacement. And then he goes into fighting only ranked people. And he had a good fight with Damian Maia. You could say that the Robbie Lawler fight was weird and he got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal, but that puts him above every unranked UFC fighter ever. The fact that he could put up a good fight with Damian Maia. And people are trying to say he's bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of goes into, just to make it relevant, it kind of goes into why I don't like the current culture of combat sports, because it's like this dude achieved one of the most impressive goals that you could have, being a champion in multiple legit highest of the high level organizations, one championship and Bellator. And then he goes over to the UFC when he's past prime and needs a hip replacement, loses a couple times, and still does better than most UFC fighters could do. And people,
but you know, the irony of that is most of the guys that say that he's trash don't watch any of those other organizations.
That is true too, because they think that it's just like, okay, this is the UFC, and then this is PFA and Bellator, and they're the same thing. PFA and Bellator are the same thing.
And you know, it's something that we talk about on the show a lot, and you know, try to strive for is combat sport education. There's so like, remember back in the 90s, well, no, the early thousands, they were trying to teach the fans about football. They were trying to teach the fans about basketball. We need to teach the fans about combat sports so they kind of get a full understanding, man. Because you hit the nail on the coffin on a few things that they don't respect where these fighters are coming from, or even understand sometimes when they go out and sign a Michael Chandler out of nowhere. They don't even know who this dude is. They don't get
Right.
it. They don't understand that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler, though, that's another interesting thing because it's like with these one kind of thought experiment I had with while I was going on live on TikTok a few days ago was it's just like a lot of these fighters are not in their primes when they're going to the UFC.
Yeah.
Because the same way the UFC has this exclusivity where it's like you can't go and fight for this other organization, so do these other organizations. Yep. They got Ben Askren past prime. They got Michael Chandler technically past prime. Like he lost his belt and then fought a couple more times and then came over to the UFC. Like that would be like if Kamaru Usman right now went over to another organization and then he became like a 50-50 fighter over at one championship, people would say like, oh, that wasn't prime Kamaru Usman, it doesn't count. Why don't we say the same thing about Michael Chandler? Why do we just assume that Bellator is worse? Now, I think that overall it's pretty clear that UFC has the majority of the best fighters in the world, but like legitimately, like they act like these professional fighters that have achieved one of the most impressive things you could do in combat sports are amateurs or something like that because they're not in the UFC. It's like anyone that's a champion in one of those other organizations could be ranked in the UFC, I'm positive, but it's just like, could they actually be the champion? Maybe, maybe not. But like all of them are the quality of a ranked UFC fighter. They're a professional champion.
I mean, the featherweight division over there was killer for a while. You could almost say the featherweight division might have been better than UFC's featherweight division for some time.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's gonna be wild, man.
That's why I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's why I like what PFL is doing because I feel like the momentum that they have now that Francis had that fight with Tyson Fury, then in addition to that, I just feel like they just acquired Bellator, which means that they're going to have a lot of at this point like washed UFC fighters that they could get like name value from. They're starting the super fight division. And they're talking about like Jake Paul going over there or something like that. Like I really feel that if they really leverage that the right way, and you have even one card where a PFL, pay-per-view, stack everything on that outperforms like a fight pass fight night type of thing. You know what I mean? Like you really could have some actual competition where people know sometimes I might watch PFL instead of the UFC, even if it's not pay-per-view versus pay-per-view. You could really put it against a fight night and then people know like, hey, PFL was better than the UFC today.
Yeah. Oh, so we got Ricardo from Dragon Snake.
Man, that'd be crazy. See like Donis versus Jake Paul or something. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
So what's your go-to meal after weight cut?
Man, I like pasta. I feel like first off, it makes me feel good in the sense that I get to carb load, and I feel like I've always felt that I perform better when I have some pasta in me. When I used to play football, I used to eat a big pot of spaghetti or something like that, like the night before. So I've kind of done something similar to that, not even as like a pre-fight ritual. It's just kind of like I end up eating pasta and it's just happened that way. But now that I have consciously thought of it, it might become my pre-fight ritual. Every one of the 4 fights that I've done, I had pasta before. Just because I like pasta. I like Alfredo. I like spaghetti. I like a lot of pastas. It's just something about those carbs, man.
Yeah, especially after weight cut too, when you have to cut out all the carbs in order to drop the weight. As soon as you get it back in, ooh, it's like sweet Christmas.
You're so funny.
The Speaking of weight cuts, though, I mean, like, I feel like I'm in a really interesting because for amateurs, I've already decided I'm not gonna cut weight. Like, for my last fight, I literally didn't cut weight.
Oh, okay.
Like, by simply just getting in shape, I weighed like 169 pounds. And I was trying to eat as much as humanly possible in order to get to that point until the day before, where I did technically cut weight. But it's more just like, or it felt like cutting weight. It's just like I starved myself all day, and I haven't done that since high school, you know? But it's like that's not a real weight cut. You know what I'm saying? As the levels get higher, I'm gonna start actually cutting weight because you need to if you want to, be the best. But it's like I don't want to put unnecessary mileage on my body if I'm not getting paid for it. I gotta see some dollar signs if you're gonna do that. Because honestly, for amateurs, you do it to get experience. If I'm making the fights harder for myself by fighting people that are bigger than me, then that's better, in all honesty. I want the harder fights where I'm fighting up and stuff like that as an amateur. So as a professional, when I'm probably the bigger guy fighting at like 155, then it's going to be a whole different beast.
Yep. Exactly. And so if you could have anybody in your corner for one fight, they could be alive or dead. They don't even have to be in combat sports at all. Who would you want to have in your corner?
You already know the answer. That's Muhammad Ali right there. What would you do if Muhammad Ali? There's an energy about that man, where if Muhammad Ali's there, that there's just some greatness there.
Yes, sir.
And then I'd immediately take the microphone and start talking about how I'm the greatest of all time, even though I am a 3-1 amateur fighter. But that's exactly what I would do. I'd choose Muhammad Ali. I'd beat the other guy, and then I'd go, I am the greatest of all time, because that means past, present, and future. Hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna.
Exactly. There you go. And then you bring in Bruce Lee as a side.
That's the core. I get 3 people: Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, and Mike Tyson for the intimidation. Not a single person that knows grappling, but
have Bruce and Mike walk you out, and then Muhammad stay in the corner.
Yeah, 100%. That would be a really cool setup. If there's one person I could probably even meet, I would really like it to be Muhammad Ali. Like it's so unfortunate that he passed, but it's just like I really do respect that. I'd really like to. I don't know. Like I researched him a lot, probably more than any other fighter, just because it's like you got to hear what the hype is about.
Right. Exactly. I had the opportunity to meet him before he passed in his later days, man. It was just being in his presence, just like the energy you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's why he says the greatest of all time, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, he's definitely we get Muhammad Ali a lot. I honestly thought we would get more Tysons than we have.
I respect Mike Tyson in the sense that he's very intimidating. And I also think that it's interesting how educated he is. People look at him as just like the guy that punches hard. And I think that some of that kind of ends up being that kind of like the stigma that comes with just the fact that he's like been to prison and stuff like that. But you can hear him talk and you can tell he's very, very intelligent, more than the vast majority of boxers out there. But it's just, I still feel like there's a different level that even Mike Tyson has said before. There's a different level of respect that kind of gets put out there for Muhammad Ali than Mike Tyson. But that's another dude where it's like, I would love to, I want to meet Mike Tyson one day. And I'm manifesting. I'm going to meet Mike Tyson one day, and we're going to have a conversation on his podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
But man, I could talk about Mike Tyson a lot. I think that he's another person who has a really cool mindset because he learned a lot of his striking drills from karate. Karate has like these bunkai, which is like the application of their kata and stuff like that. And he would study that stuff. And that's actually how he got some of his stuff. He does like karate blitzes and stuff like that. He does weird like stance switches and stuff like that because he studied karate, and he's public about that. He has a lot of respect for traditional martial arts because people didn't just invent punching people in the face with boxing. Like people have been boxing before boxing was called boxing all over the world in all these different martial arts. And it's just like, if you close your mind to it and just say, oh, this is karate, it doesn't work. Well, no, that's somebody who it got lost in translation and is being taught to 10-year-olds now. But go and find
Right.
the person who actually knows it, and you could get some real info from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's crazy how much of a businessman Tyson became after his career. Like he has the weed farm, he has like a pigeon um, setup where he just has all these pigeons. He has podcast and the media company that he does. Like he's an ambassador for a lot of combat sports equipment. There's just so many different things that he has his hands on now,
Right.
and it's crazy too, Jared, because he did. It seems like even now, as old as he still has the same stigma hanging over his head, kind of like that cloud from what's the character's name in Charlie Brown with the gray cloud?
Oh, I don't remember his
Oh
name.
man, so he got that gray cloud hanging over his head still, and it's crazy that it's been all this time, but people still think about his arrest. And he ever since he came out, I remember that first walkout, that first fight that he had prior to him being released, and he had that crazy stare, and didn't he knock the dude out in like 15 seconds?
That's right. It was against that one dude that was talking all kinds of shit, and
He
then
was
you
talking
see he's
so
just
much
bouncing back
shit.
and forth. Mike Tyson's eyes just following back and forth.
Yep. And here we are like 20 years later, and then he still has that stigma. He's such a different person than he was back then too.
Right.
Mhm.
I think it's interesting how Mike Tyson's been working so much with these MMA fighters, though. Like he was working with Cejudo, he was working with Francis. And I really think that when you just kind of think of Mike Tyson, it kind of makes sense because he's a person that was concerned with real violence. He was a boxer. Boxing was the sport that they had back then, but he was concerned with real violence. And he understands how to apply certain concepts that kind of transcend sports. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
I think that that's just really interesting that he finds himself training a lot of these MMA fighters when I'm sure that there's lots of boxers that would love to ring up his phone too. I'm sure he does train them as well, but it's just like, I mean, you don't see all these videos of Floyd who going out there and training with these MMA fighters or something like that because Floyd's a boxer. Floyd doesn't care about these MMA fighters. Mike Tyson is a fighter. He wants to help anyone that is trying to be a student, or the vibes that I get at least. It's not like I know him.
If we
But
see
yeah.
videos of Floyd with MMA fighters, it's a pay-per-view coming soon. That's that's the thing for Floyd. You see him with an MMA fighter, you better be looking at your calendar because there's a date coming and he's selling some pay-per-view tickets.
right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, Jared. It's crazy because there's a lot. There's a lot to what you got going on. You got the MMA club. You got your own personal amateur career. You're trying to help others. Set up internships. There's a lot, man, and I'm sure you're a busy, 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 busy guy. Does it ever get in the way of you training at all?
100%. I'm not even gonna lie. It 100% does. I feel like time management was honestly one of the things that probably contributed towards me losing to Sebastian just last month, pretty much exactly a month ago. I feel like first off, I haven't actually. So even though I am the grappler, I haven't really been training my grappling like that in almost a year. And the reason why is because it's like with the MMA club stuff, I don't feel like I was able to get better at grappling because no one there knows how to actually grapple. There's some people who would go out there and get a couple months into learning jujitsu while coming from a high school wrestling background or something like that. And it could get some semblance of a productive round, but it's not the same as having somebody that actually knows how to grapple. The last time that I had a program that was developing my grappling was back when I lived in New Mexico. You know what I'm saying? And then I go out there, I win my first fight and I get a manager. He has a gym, but it's a boxing gym. There's no grappling there. So I continue getting the same grappling that I was getting, which was high school wrestlers with a couple months of jiu-jitsu. And by the time I'm actually fighting, you know what I mean? It's a totally different animal. Now, what I will say, because I don't want to disrespect anybody, I have had some help in the sense of like Union Combat Academy. They were going out there and helping. And I feel like a lot of those guys were willing to help me go out there and put in the work to get the grappling going. But I felt like it just evidently I wasn't spending enough time out there. And it's just like there's so much time being invested in so many different things. I've made some changes, and I feel like I'm at a point where my grappling 6 months from now will honestly go back to where what you guys don't even know how nasty I was right before COVID. I'm sorry to go on another
It's,
Yeah, you're good.
God. Before COVID, when I was 18, I wanted to make my MMA debut. I just placed in state, and I started wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the same time. This is like a Jared that is like now almost 3 years removed from actually like grappling in a learning jiu-jitsu type of context. You know what I mean? I felt like I was ready back then. I felt like I was stronger back then too, because at state I had a shoulder injury that never ended up healing right. So it's probably good that I didn't make the debut then. But once I actually get to a point where I start relearning some of the stuff that I know, you'll see a better version of me. And that's when the takeover begins.
Nice. Yeah, and over at Dragon Snake too, you got Princeton Jackson, who just recently got his black belt, and he'll be a great training partner for you.
Yes, sir. I really Princeton is one of the strangest grapplers I have ever had the pleasure of grappling with, because it's just like he has this one body lock. I'm not going to talk too much about his moves or anything like that, but he has this one body lock he catches with me every time, and it almost feels like a submission. Like he's crazy, and I really like learning from him. He makes me better. Everybody at Dragon Snake makes me better. Everybody at Protege makes me better. Everybody at J Pages when I'm going to the open mats or when I'm going to the MMA class that I sometimes have the pleasure of being able to attend. There's so many people that are going out there and investing themselves and making me better right now, especially after catching my first loss, that I really feel bad for whoever my next opponent is. I'm not gonna lie.
Man. Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed watching your fights, but now I'm gonna enjoy it even more. Just kind of like hearing your mindset and how you're approaching each one and how you're approaching your career. So I'm looking forward to see your evolutions and how you evolve in each outing.
All right. Yes, sir.
Anything you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give?
I mean, I kind of gave a lot of shout outs right there. I'm not going to lie. Shout out to everybody that's training at the MMA Club as well. One more thing. I hate to put you guys on the spot, but if you guys are ever looking for any sort of assistance in any of the ASAP sports stuff, or need more people to help out with the podcasting and stuff like that, I mean, like I said, I'm always trying to find more things to get involved with, because that'll help my brand. That would help the ASU MMA Club. That would help. Hopefully there's some value that I'd be able to benefit to you guys or something like that. If you guys ever need assistance with anything, feel free to reach out, because I'm a guy that really would want to put in work in all these local companies, especially ones that are kind of combat sports adjacent industries.
Absolutely, man.
Definitely. We'll definitely we were already talking about kind of leaning towards this area and expanding out that way. So this might just work out. We're definitely going to reach out and talk to you. For sure. Had fun. Yes, sir. Well, definitely, man. Can't wait to see your next. Do you have anything scheduled right now?
I want to fight again by February. They were not able to find me a fight before then.
Damn.
I am not going to be able to get on either of these kickboxing shows. Todd's told me, Chosen's told me. They're ducking.
Oh, February.
They're ducking. Well, February, hopefully.
Well, it's all right. By that time, you probably have a couple new weapons underneath your belt, and some more cans of whoop ass to open.
Exactly.
All right, Jared, man. I really appreciate.
By the way, I'm sorry. One more thing. Before Sebastian goes pro, I'm getting that rematch, and I'm gonna have a win over him. I just want y'all to know.
Hey, there we go. Manifest that shit, boy.
100%.
Yes, sir. I would like to be at that one. I couldn't make this last one, but we're gonna make it a point. When that goes down, we're gonna be there.
Exactly.
100%.
Yes, sir.
All right. You guys have a good night, though. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, thank
You
you,
as
brother.
well, man.
Appreciate you.
For sure. Talk to you soon.
All right. Peace,
All right.
my guy.
That was fun.
That was a fun one. I enjoyed that a lot. It's always great talking to Jared, especially too hearing about like his ambitions, how driven he is, and then he has a different mindset from a lot of other people. That's why I like to.
Man, he had me. I was listening a lot. I learned a lot. I was like, I caught myself in the screen. I'm like, shut your mouth.
No, but that's the thing I really like about Jared, because like how you and I always talk, I'm always like, I think long term, like years, even decades, centuries, and it's nice to see somebody else who has the same kind of mindset as Jared, where he's not just looking for the instant gratification or looking for what's now. He has the ambition to look for what's in the future and beyond.
Yeah, and even outside of that, for me, I like those unorthodox fighters that are able to hit you with stuff that you're not used to seeing, and you're not premised to it coming from that position, and you know what I mean. So
Mhm.
it's dope to be able to hear, someone trying to put that recipe together. I'm gonna take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and create this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm gonna throw it on a side tangent only because I see it and I want to say something. Is that a meaty stallion hat?
It sure is.
I didn't know he was selling hats.
Yes, it is. I got this at one of his first shows I went to. And speaking of which, I'm gonna give him a plug. He will be at the Tempe Improv as the main event. I think it's February.
Hey.
I think it's in February. I already bought tickets. I don't know, but it's in February, I believe.
I know you had missed the last one that me and JJ went to.
Yeah, yeah, man. I try not to miss. You can't. I can't. I need two of me, so I can be everywhere I need to be.
Exactly. Exactly.
I try not to miss stuff, but can't be everywhere at once, right?
Yeah, we'd be hustling.
Yeah, man.
Man.
Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I did want to talk a little bit about the last UFC one with Beneil Dariush and Armin, but if you want to bounce out, it's cool.
What was that? What fight was that? Hold on.
That was just this past weekend where it had
Oh, when
Jalen.
Bobby Green got laid the fuck out.
I wanted like a good 5 minutes just to dedicate to that conversation.
Oh my
What did you
goodness.
think of that, bro? That was such a late fucking stoppage.
Well, first of all, the stoppage. Yeah, dude, he was asleep when he got hit. He was asleep. He got punched. His head hit the mat. He woke up for a split second. Got punched again. His head hit the mat, and he went back to sleep. And
Mhm.
then he just mounted him and kept. I was like, "Yo, stop the fight!"
Right? I was literally watching that shit and I was like, how the hell is the ref not stopping it? Like, he probably took off a few years from his life from that.
Bro, I mean, I want to hear him talk right now. I mean, that was really, really, really bad.
Hmm. And I know too, Dana White actually talked about the ref. The ref had said that he felt absolutely horrible about that because, like,
If you
again,
say
we don't
anything other
know.
than that, you need to get smacked.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
There's no way to
kudos to
defend
Caitlin
that.
Turner. You can't defend that, bro. That was such a horrible stoppage, but it's good he at least is owning up to it. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human. The referees, they're in an even more severe position to where it could be a life-threatening situation that they have to handle. And
And
if they don't own up to it, then they're fucked.
and Jalen, hats off to you, but you're an asshole because each punch was harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. He was fucking punching the shit out of Greenhead off that mat. I was like, God damn, somebody stop him.
Hey,
Stop him.
I'm gonna quote Jorge Masvidal on that one. It's super necessary. Until the ref pulls him off, his job is to kill.
Bro, no, fuck
That was
that. That
bad
was
though.
bad.
That was so bad.
Figueredo, whoop, Font, Armin.
Oh.
Oh, that was
Now,
another one.
bro, I really do like Beneil Dariush, but it's not gonna take away from Armin, but he's got a glass chin. Anybody could have
Last gen
done
or
that.
not?
Beneil.
No, man. That was a smooth motherfucking punch.
It was smooth, yeah, but I feel like if it wasn't,
He didn't even see it.
yeah, I don't know.
Like,
It's
I give you the glass chin. It's very weak,
mhm.
but he didn't see that shit.
Yeah, he didn't see it at all. He was trying to escape that knee.
Even with a concrete chin, you would have went to sleep on that.
See, actually, I
It
don't
was a
know.
clean fucking punch.
It was a clean punch, but when you look at how it was, he wasn't able to truly what is the word I'm looking for? He wasn't able to truly execute the kinetic flow from his feet through his spine into his shoulder and punch because his foot wasn't even planted yet when he threw that punch. So it was almost like a half
Did you
Superman
just
punch.
hit me with it? He wasn't able to fully execute the kinetic flow.
Yes, I did.
Get the fuck out of here!
No, but if you actually look back at it, it was almost like a half-hearted Superman punch to where it's not going to have the full power, but it has some power to it.
Josh, hey man, that motherfucker's jaw fully kinetic the flow of the he completed the mission. Damn it!
He did complete the mission, but the question is, would that have knocked out Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier?
Just in case you Justin Poirier wouldn't have got hit like that, they would have seen it coming. They got cat-like reflexes. Fucking what's his name? He looked like an old man anyway. See, look at you just started. He looked like an old man anyway. His reflexes said the same.
Mm-hmm. Like,
said,
don't get me wrong, I like Beneil, but it's just he even admitted to himself it's too quick and easy for him to get rocked or knocked out.
If anyone's saying it's too quick and easy for me to get knocked out, you should not be signing an MMA match.
Let me tell you something. No, I'm kidding.
I got a nail. Who got the coffin? Let's put this bitch together.
God.
That is. You signed and still delivered it yourself. I don't even got to talk shit to you during the press conference. I'm just gonna play your own words. I get knocked out too easy. I get knocked out too easy.
Exactly. Like he's obviously was the ranked number 4 for a reason, but like even in his wins, he gets rocked easily, and
I can't
no
even
disrespect.
stop. My eyes are tearing so hard right now.
From the kinetic flow.
Yeah, the kinetic flow. I'm still stuck on the kinetic flow shit. He said he wasn't able to generate the proper kinetic flow. What the fuck? Oh shit!
Laugh though, bro.
Ugh.
Oh, that was funny.
You asked Belil how the kinetic flow was, man.
It was kinetically flowing to the ground. That's what it was.
The referee said, "I seen lightning."
Oh, that was funny.
Oh,
And then we saw in
shit.
that card too, Sean Brady. He dominated Calvin. I love Calvin, but he got dominated.
Yeah, Kelvin's Clay lost. It pissed me off.
Mhm.
But he's old.
Yeah.
Did you see the Misha Tate fight?
That I missed. How was that one?
I missed it too. I was hoping.
It's too much in that kinetic flow.
Yeah. I'm gonna fucking my eyes are tearing. Like, so tearing. All right. All right.
Okay, we'll go and bounce
Anything
after
you want to
that.
say before you want to get out of here?
No, just always a pleasure hopping on, talking to these great fighters, going through the kinetic flow of things.
For real, man. I just can't.
Shanig, man. Fucking with ASAP Sports Network, man. Tune in, stay logged in, and stay mouthed in. You dig? Yuck mouth. Yada da. Boy!
All right, man. Well, I'm Jay.
And I'm Josh.
And this was another episode of Going Hand.
Peace, sucker.
Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. Whole
Rebel soul child got a fist ball, I'm a respawn of ancestors, and I'm blessed, They are not him, tell him fess up, I get check stub, hella carefree, nothing scares me, hella reckless, yeah, I got next up, right, now we not the same, cause see when I look in your iris,